wiiplay, a classic title from the Wii game series. It's a top 5 selling Wii game of all time, and to some, it's a novelty. wiiplay was a game that was meant to teach you the basic mechanics of the Wiimote in a fun and creative way. As Wii Sports was more focused on motion controls, wiiplay was more focused on pointing and clicking. With games where you're shooting various things like cans, targets, and balloons, similar to Duck Hunt on the NES, or driving around as a tank trying to take out other tanks without getting shot. wiiplay's goal was for everyone possible to have a great time, in a simple way. And Nintendo achieved that clearly, with over 28 million copies sold. But that doesn't tell the whole story. wiiplay was an interesting piece of software while in development, and various things were left in the files, but didn't get to the final game itself. These different pieces of software are for some of the 9 playable levels in the game, with 3 different possible levels that will be touched on briefly later. Also something else that may be the reason that wiiplay sold so successfully. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's dive right in to wiiplay. wiiplay's development has a very similar path to the Wii Sports development I touched on in my last video, which explained how these two games, called Party Pack Revolution and Sports Pack Revolution at the time, with the name Revolution stemming from the Wii's name when it was in development and announced at first, these two were tested and created within one another under the same project, the Wii Project, and separated demos into categories for these two games. The development of wiiplay was one hell of a time, considering they were making demos for the remote at one time, and once Miyamoto put in motion how the games were all going to be separated, they only really had 7 to 8 months to finish all the projects. So at the end, some revisions to the game were made to make the game wiiplay we know today. But I'm more interested right now in seeing what this game from my childhood could have been, not what I know it as. And that all starts with one of the 3 games that could have been in wiiplay, but wasn't, and that's Bird. Bird was never shown and never made it out of the tech demo stage, so no demos are playable and there's not any footage. But what's on screen is what the original idea of Bird was created into, Balloon Trip Breeze from Nintendo Land for the Wii U. It has similar aspects of Balloon Fight for the NES, and this unheard of Bird game. It also kind of reminds me of our next entry, and that's Obstacle Course. This one has obvious ties to Pose Me, and it actually was turned into Balance Bubble for Wii Fit, and was just turned 90 degrees to fit the idea they were going for the balance board. This was said by the director of wiiplay, Motoi Okamoto. We have footage of Obstacle Course shown as I've been speaking, and it's not the most intriguing Nintendo minigame, but if you want something that turns your brain off even more, let's go with the final minigame that was almost in wiiplay, and that's Me Maestro from Wii Music. Just why? I'm glad this decision was made, considering when I'm playing Wii Music, it really doesn't feel like it has a core concept. How the fuck did this almost sell 3 million copies? That's not what we're here to talk about though. But the fact is, Me Maestro almost landed inside of wiiplay. That a little mind-boggling, or... Nonetheless, those are what could have been in wiiplay, but weren't. How about things we know for the 9 games today? And what are those 9 games, you say? I thought you'd never ask. Here's a brief rundown of each minigame in as few words as possible. Shooting range, duck hunt with less ducks. Point and hit B to shoot. Find me is what Okamoto called Wanted for Mario 64 DS Reborn. Select the right Mii's according to the objective. Point, click A. Table tennis, teammate sabotaging rally speedrun. Left, right, Pose Me. What the hell's going on here? Match the correct position for me, float over bubbles. Boom. Laser hockey, Pong, but it's not Pong, so let me score on myself instead. Point it everywhere. Billiards. Why can't my sensor bar ever work? It's just back and forth. Fishing. These fish must want to die, considering there's no bait on the hook. Just yank it in with the Wii remote. Charge. This one has you hold the Wii remote sideways and includes a little bit of motion controls. Where does this even fit in at? And tanks. The game for wiiplay. If you actually wanted to get wiiplay, this was probably the reason why. Tanks was the only game that used the nunchuck, and while it didn't need it essentially, I will think you need to be in a hospital if you play this without it. And that's the lineup of the 9 games in our lovely wiiplay lineup. Wow. What could have possibly been different? And that's what this is for. Because wiiplay just so happens to have a decent amount of content that never came to the final game. For multiple minigames in fact. Loads of unreleased data that is fun as hell to look at. So let's do that. Some things I won't talk about because they are minor things and I want to keep this video on the shorter end. Let's get into general content first. Like the unused outfits. The first 2 being boxing clothes for Wii Sports, and the final being the suit used in the E3 2006 orchestra demo. We can see the tuxedos in action in a video from the YouTuber beat_squo, who by the way always has interesting unreleased bits from a variety of different games. But this video gives us an idea of what the tuxedo outfits would have looked like in game, though it's shown in Wii Sports. It's cool to see. And something else is we could have had this loading screen between load times. Better left out in my opinion. And this random record scratch. Maybe for when your bubble fails and pose me, but there's no weight to that statement. But let's get on to a game with some unreleased bits, and that just so happens to be Pose Me. The first thing being unused animations from the leftover obstacle course demo. These would have probably made the objective of Pose Me a little different with more poses, different levels maybe, or just replace the ones we know today. But regardless, they're hidden away to rot in the game files, along with these sounds that were later replaced with other ones. The next minigame, Find Me, has a new objective not seen in the final game, and that's find 1 to 3 insomniacs, having you instead find me's that are awake while the others are asleep. Opposite of the find the sleepyhead objective in the final game, this was probably a lot easier and too similar to the sleepyhead objective, hence why they scrapped it. There was also a feature where you could zoom in or out, and in action, it looks pretty cool. I'm showing some footage right here. And like Pose Me, there are some sounds that are found throughout the game files for Find Me, but got changed. The final game to talk about is surprisingly Charge. This game had so many different unused assets, probably because they wanted to get it out in time, and as Okamoto said, focus was less on wiiplay and more on Wii Sports towards the end. The unused assets start with an early cow and me model, with it just being a blue default player and a similar looking cow. And like the last two, there are audio files left in the game that were meant for this game mode, but got scrapped in the final. But finally, wiiplay Charge had an interesting slew of unused tracks, 6 to be exact, with 4 two-player multiplayer maps. Let's go in order, starting with cow_field 1. It's mainly a grassy terrain with a trailed path off to the side, nothing too exciting, and for good reason, as none of these tracks were really finished. Cow_field 2 is much of the exact same from Cowfield 1, where you start on the trail, and as this one is the two-player stage, has 2 starting points. Next is Cowfield 3, and it's one of the more finished out of the bunch. Has a trailed path with barriers in place telling you where to go towards the end as well. Nothing too special, but nice nonetheless. It's very finished, but it looks like it was about halfway through and they were like, you know what? Though Cowfield 4 uses models and collisions from Cowfield 3, this is a more simple, modest looking track. A lot less barriers, and it's a 2 starting point track, indicating that it's, once again, a multiplayer map. The 5th map is Cowfield 2P.BRRES. This is a 2-player course, and the thing that stands out is the length of the track. Why is it like this? It's kinda crazy. And the final map of the bunch, being the most finished and clean looking, is cow_knit_field. This map looks like it was almost the final 2-player map, since it has 2 starting points and is a 2-player map, but was switched with the final one we got at the final release at the last minute. Besides that, there's not a whole lot of stuff for wiiplay that's unreleased, or at least that we know about from file leaks. Their main focus at the time was Wii Sports, not wiiplay, so wiiplay kinda took a backseat. But regardless of it being less technological than Wii Sports, it still did outstandingly well in sales, selling over 28 million copies to date. The minigames were fun, and people loved them and played them time and time again. People got their Wii fix from Wii Sports that was free with their console, and wiiplay was a fun switch up at times. But does that tell the whole story? Not really. wiiplay was part of a plan Miyamoto had to bundle games with the consoles. Wii Sports was bundled with North American Wiis in November 2006. With new games being priced at around $50, a lot of people might not have seen the point of dropping that kind of money on a simple game. But for this problem, quote unquote, Miyamoto already had a plan before the Wii even came out. He wanted to bundle wiiplay with a controller to attract more eyes to the game, and oh boy did it work. The regular price of a Wii controller at the time was $40 before tax, and they were selling this bundle at $50 that came with a Wiimote and wiiplay together. This bundle was dropped in North America in February 2007, and considering the Wii was a fairly new console, only a few months old, and this came with an additional controller you probably wanted, and a new game for only $10 more, no wonder it was such a success. 28 million is a lot. A bunch of tech demos wasn't going to sell that alone, and wiiplay is super guilty of pack-in syndrome, but it's fine. It's still wiiplay that we all know and love. The real question is, why is the North American case so ass compared to the other ones? It's crazy.